At exactly 10:42 a.m. on October 16, 2025, in a modest street, Paul apartment building, FBI Special Agent Caleb Jurchison watched through surveillance equipment as Tyler Maxon Avalos stepped out of his front door. 7 days had passed since a Detroit TikTok user had flagged the most chilling digital bounty in American legal history. The image was burned into every agent's memory. Attorney General Pam Bondi's face with a sniper-scope red dot on her forehead, accompanied by the words, "Wanted, Pam Bondi divided by reward, 45,000 divided by dead or alive, preferably dead." Agent Jurchison's hand hovered above his radio, steady yet calculating. The man walking toward the mailbox labeled T. Avalos had no idea that his digital manifesto had triggered a federal manhunt spanning 3 states and multiple tech giants. The morning air carried the scent of autumn leaves and the weight of imminent justice. Across the street, 2 more agents sat in an unmarked sedan, their eyes fixed on the target who believed he could price the death of America's top prosecutor at $45,000. The hunt had begun 7 days earlier when an ordinary TikTok user in Detroit made an extraordinary decision. They reported what they described as a murder-for-hire post to the FBI National Threat Operations Center. Within hours, the digital dominoes began to fall with the precision of a Swiss watch and the urgency of a national security crisis. In the sterile confines of the FBI's Detroit field office, the initial report seemed almost surreal. The post featured Bondi's image with the caption, ***, times when they don't serve us, then what?" beneath the bounty announcement. But Agent Jurchison knew better than to dismiss online threats as empty posturing. In an era where assassination attempts had moved from the realm of fiction to breaking news, every threat demanded surgical precision. The recent attempts on political figures had taught law enforcement a harsh lesson. Digital threats could materialize into deadly reality with terrifying speed. The investigation moved with frightening efficiency that would have impressed even the most seasoned intelligence operatives. Emergency disclosure requests to TikTok revealed that someone had created the account at Liminal Void Slip on September 7 using a Samsung Galaxy device and an IP address registered to Comcast. The username Wacko wasn't just a random choice, it was stylized with an anarchist symbol replacing the letter A, and the account featured a pinned link to an Anarchist Frequently Asked Questions book. Every digital fingerprint told a story of radicalization, each data point a breadcrumb leading federal agents closer to their target. Google and Comcast became unwitting allies in the pursuit, their servers yielding secrets with each subpoena. Subsequent legal requests tied the email and IP information to a street, poor residents on Hyacinth Avenue West, a quiet neighborhood where neighbors walked their dogs and children played in yards, oblivious to the extremist in their midst. Cross-referencing state supervision records revealed a name that sent chills through the investigative team: Tyler Maxon Avalos, 29, a man whose criminal history read like a primer on escalating violence and social disintegration. The background check revealed a disturbing progression that painted the portrait of a man spiraling toward ultimate violence. A July 2022 felony stalking conviction in Dakota County, Minnesota, showed a pattern of obsessive behavior. A felony domestic battery conviction from August 2016 in Polk County, Florida, demonstrated his willingness to use physical force against those closest to him. Most disturbing was a misdemeanor domestic assault from April 2016 in Dakota County that had been downgraded from a felony charge of strangulation, an attempt to literally squeeze the life from another human being. Agent Jurchison studied the pattern with the methodical attention of a behavioral analyst. Stalking, domestic violence, strangulation. Each crime represented an escalation, a step closer to the ultimate act of violence. The progression was textbook. First the obsessive pursuit, then physical assault, then attempted murder by strangulation, and now a bounty on the head of the nation's top law enforcement officer. It was a criminal resume that suggested Avalos viewed violence not as a last resort, but as a first language. The anarchist connection wasn't merely philosophical posturing or teenage rebellion carried into adulthood. According to the affidavit, anarchism advocates for the replacement of the state with stateless societies and voluntary free associations. But in Avalos's hands, this ideology had apparently become a justification for violence against the very embodiment of state authority. His TikTok page wasn't just a social media profile, it was a digital shrine to anti-government extremism, complete with reading materials that advocated for the complete dismantling of legal institutions. Federal investigators discovered that Avalos had been active in online anarchist communities for months before posting the bounty. His digital footprint revealed a man consumed by anti-government rhetoric, sharing memes that glorified violence against law enforcement and government officials. He had liked and shared content that promoted the idea that government officials were legitimate targets for citizen justice. The $45,000 figure wasn't random. Investigators later discovered he had been discussing crowdfunding assassination attempts in private messaging groups, treating political murder like a business transaction. At 10:47 a.m., Agent Jurchison gave the command that would end this particular chapter of domestic terrorism. Target acquired. Move in. The words carried the weight of federal authority and the promise of justice. FBI agents conducting surveillance saw Avalos exit the building and identified a mailbox labeled T. Avalos. He was taken into custody later that day without incident, his hands cuffed behind his back as he realized that his digital bounty hunting had made him the hunted. There was no dramatic chase, no Hollywood shootout, no final confrontation. The man who had threatened America's Attorney General was arrested with the same methodical precision that had tracked him down, a testament to how modern law enforcement could turn the internet from a tool of terrorism into an instrument of justice. Avalos's neighbors watched in stunned silence as federal agents led him away, finally understanding why the quiet man in apartment 3B had seemed so angry at the world. In the apartment, agents discovered the digital infrastructure of modern extremism. The Samsung Galaxy that had been used to create the TikTok account sat on a cluttered desk next to anarchist literature and printouts of anti-government manifestos. The Comcast internet connection that had carried his threat across state lines was still active, its router blinking innocently as agents documented evidence. And somewhere in the digital ether, the anarchist manifesto that had driven a man to believe he could purchase the death of justice itself continued to circulate among like-minded extremists. 5 days later, in a federal courtroom in Minnesota, Tyler Maxon Avalos faced the consequences of his digital assassination plot. The sterile courtroom atmosphere contrasted sharply with the chaotic online world where he had issued his deadly challenge. A U.S. magistrate judge granted Avalos's release from custody under several conditions that effectively turned him into a digital prisoner. He could not travel outside Minnesota, had to continue receiving mental health treatment, was forbidden from drinking alcohol or possessing weapons, had to observe a strict curfew, agreed to be monitored by GPS, and could not use the internet without prior approval from federal authorities. The irony was palpable and deliberate. A man who had used the internet to threaten the nation's chief prosecutor was now forbidden from accessing the very medium that had enabled his crime. His ankle monitor would track his every movement, while his enforced digital silence meant he could no longer spread his anarchist ideology or coordinate with fellow extremists. The federal court had effectively neutered his ability to function in the modern world, transforming a would-be domestic terrorist into a supervised ward of the state. Avalos faces charges under Federal Statute 18 SC Section 875C, which criminalizes any threat to kidnap any person or any threat to injure the person of another, an offense punishable upon conviction by up to 5 years in prison. The statute was written in an era before social media, but its language proved remarkably prescient in addressing the digital age threats that federal prosecutors now regularly encounter. The case represents more than a single threat against a government official. It illuminates the dangerous intersection of online radicalization, anarchist ideology, and the democratization of violence through social media platforms. In an era where political assassination has returned to American headlines, where the line between rhetoric and reality grows thinner by the day, the swift federal response sends an unmistakable message threatening America's law enforcement leaders will be met with the full weight of federal justice, regardless of the medium used to make such threats. Agent Jurchison, reviewing the case files one final time, understood the broader implications. Social media had given every extremist a global platform to recruit followers, share violent fantasies, and coordinate attacks. But it had also given law enforcement an unprecedented ability to track, trace, and prosecute those who crossed the line from protected speech to criminal threat. Every post, every like, every share created a digital trail that could lead federal agents directly to the perpetrator's door. As Tyler Maxon Avalos sits under GPS monitoring in Minnesota, forbidden from the internet that enabled his crime, a larger question looms over federal law enforcement agencies. How many other digital bounty hunters are out there, waiting for their moment to strike? The investigation revealed that tracking down a modern extremist requires the cooperation of multiple tech giants, federal agencies, and local law enforcement. TikTok, Google, and Comcast all played crucial roles in tracing the digital breadcrumbs that led to Avalos's door, demonstrating how public-private partnerships have become essential in combating domestic terrorism. Perhaps the most striking element of this case is how quickly online extremism can escalate to real-world consequences. 7 days from tip to arrest. 7 days from digital threat to federal custody. 7 days that demonstrated both the speed of modern radicalization and the efficiency of federal response when proper resources are applied to domestic terrorist threats. The case of Tyler Maxon-Avalos raises uncomfortable questions about the price of justice in the digital age. Can law enforcement stay ahead of extremists who operate at the speed of social media? How many other anarchist manifestos are circulating in the digital underground, waiting for the right trigger to transform into actionable violence? Most chillingly, was $45,000 the actual price Avalos believed justice was worth, or merely the number that would grab enough attention to inspire copycat attacks? As this case moves through the federal court system, one fact remains unshakable. In the United States of America, threatening the life of the Attorney General isn't political speech. It's a federal crime that will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Tyler Maxon-Avalos is about to learn that lesson in the harshest possible terms. The oldest truth remains the most relevant. In the battle between law and anarchy, the law has badges, warrants, and GPS monitoring. Anarchy just has empty threats and federal prison sentences. What do you think? Was this swift federal response a necessary protection of justice, or an overreach of government power? If this story of digital extremism and federal justice captivated you, don't stay silent. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel, where the law meets truth and threats meet consequences. Hit the notification bell. The next arrest might expose the extremist next door. This story is based on publicly available court documents and news reports. All details are factually sourced and reflect the ongoing federal case against Tyler Maxon-Avalos.